My name is Kelly Gilbert. I'm with the Community Relations Department here at Fidelity. I know virtually all of you. And I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to introduce you to the leadership team that you're going to hear from today, and also to give you a little bit of background about this particular program, which is the Investing in Students Making Math Count. So before we get started, a show of hands, who here has volunteered for the program in the past? Good, good. Well, there is going to be a call to action at the end, so even for those that may need to dash, please know that I will be sending out a call to action, and you will have a to-do list when we leave, so it wouldn't be us if we didn't ask for something at the end of a meeting, right? So, but it's just help. You don't have to do anything other than be you, so which is a good thing. So let me start out by just telling you the history very quickly. Years ago, I don't even, 7, 8? When we were younger, I met Stuart and his wife Sharon Crickmer. Stuart is the creator of the Portfolios game, which the Investing in Students is a modified version of the portfolios that we use for the middle school students, okay? Stuart runs Omniology and Ninth Wave. We met through a totally different opportunity through the foundation. We got to know each other, loved what he was doing around education because I have an absolute passion around education. Went about over the next couple of years, Fidelity would sponsor various events that Stuart was holding, whether it was on the college campuses or with groups. The Women's Initiative through the Northern Kentucky Chamber, we hosted an event here. So we have had a lot of opportunities to get to know each other. And through Stuart's network, he knew Rob Young with Crew Capital, who you will hear from today, and also the trustee for the Edwards Foundation. He also knew Kevin Corcoran, who is with NKU. Fidelity has a relationship with NKU, but I didn't know Kevin before I knew Stuart. So as you can imagine, we're all kind of filtering out. We also had a relationship with the Kenton County School District for several years now. Dr. Terry Cox-Cruey is the superintendent of the Kenton County School District, and through Terry, who I've known for years, even outside of the school district, she introduced us to Jenny Barrett. Jenny Barrett is the math consultant for the Kenton County School District. And then, of course, Linda Jackson, who is the superintendent of the Covington School District. So anyone who participated in your Transformation Day activities, Linda Jackson is the superintendent of Holmes Middle School. So you can see we have all these different networks, and through all good karma, we all just started reconnecting in a new and different way, using our talents, using the resources that we have to do something really cool and innovative that would impact something that we all feel very strongly about, and that's education. So because we have this shared passion, there's a lot of energy that went into it. And then on top of that, you know, I'm sitting here with 4,000 people in this region who have an equal passion around education, or at least I would say a good number of the people here do. So it just seemed the right time and the right thing to do. So we had been testing the portfolios in different scenarios. Then we looked at, wouldn't it be cool if we just pulled all this together and did something really neat with the Kenton County School District, which we did. And last year we piloted the program. So you're going to hear from different people today about the results of that pilot program. But I do want to share one thing very quickly. And at the end I'm going to give you more stats, but this will make sense, and this is a teaser to make you stay to the actual end as well. So for those who participated last year, we had 76 individuals, Fidelity employees, volunteer for the pilot that we had last year. 51 of those were unique volunteers. So there was a core group of 51 people, and think about that, who repeatedly came back every time we did things to get involved. But a total of 76, and they donated 351 hours to this project. That is a significant amount of time when you look at how full your day jobs are. So from me and from all of the other team leaders on this collaborative, I just want to take a minute to say really thank you to everyone who was a part of that, and to the teachers who let us come into your classroom. We thank you. For those of us who have no ambition to ever do your job and to be with children full time. It was quite an experience, and we loved it. But it was amazing. It was amazing. And again, because we don't get to do this during the day, it was a really neat experience. And I cannot begin to tell you the amount of buzz that has been created on this campus around this program. And I'll share a little bit more about that buzz later. So next, I want to cue up a video. Back up one bit. So one of the additions to this year's program, because it was so awesome last year, and we'll talk about this more throughout the time, we're actually now expanding this program. So instead of the 2 schools that we went to in Kenton County last year, we will be visiting and working with all 4 Kenton County Independent School District schools and the Holmes Middle School. So instead of 2, we are now jumping to 5 schools. This program is going to be touching over 1,300 7th grade students, which last year it touched about 600. So I tell you all that because there's the to-do at the end. But I want you to understand how big, and this, nothing small about this. It may seem that you're only donating an hour or volunteering an hour here or there, but when you look at the total, it's amazing. 1,300 kids are going to be touched by what you're doing. So nothing you're doing is small or insignificant. Please know that. And welcome to Holmes Middle School. We are so excited. We already love them because of Transformation Day, but now we get to love them a little bit more. So for those who haven't seen it, and some of you who were at Best in Class will have seen part of this and some other things, but I think it's worth showing again. This is an actual video that was made last year through the Kenton County School District talking about this program.
Kenton County school officials are rolling the dice on a stock market investment simulation designed to make students better at math.
Down 1.
Woodland and Turkeyfoot Middle School students recently traveled to community partner Fidelity Investments to compete in a stock market-based investment tournament designed to sharpen their math skills.
Students know that this is what these people do for a living and that they're experts at this, and the fact that they are taking time out of their day to come into our schools and now to bring us into their building and treat these kids wonderfully. It's just been really exciting, so it's been a great partnership.
It's a core value at Fidelity to be engaged in the community. Thousands of hours a year giving back, and it's a national directive that we are involved in education. So this program fits perfectly, and Kenton County is obviously a fantastic partner.
The financially based program was embedded into the district's 7th grade math curriculum this year. Students in the class learn real-life math concepts like percentages using high-tech hands-on tools such as an investment simulation game, an online investment challenge, and today's simulated stock investment tournament. District leaders set up the reality-based partnership with NKU, Ninth Wave, the Edwards Foundation, Omniology, and Fidelity Investments. The mission is to show kids the importance of math in possible future careers.
I think it not only gives validity to the program, but I think it also shows students that there really are authentic reasons that they need to explore and learn math at a deep level. For a long time we've heard kids say, why do I have to learn this stuff? I think they're finding that there's a good reason to learn this, and in the end we hope to monitor that trend data to show that there's a real purpose and that these kids are more financially stable when they get out and get jobs and become adults and citizens in our community.
The program is called Investing in Students Making Math Count. It was launched to complement and reinforce the shift in national core academic standards for math. The curriculum shift focuses on giving students more real-life, robust group math lessons in place of the traditional method of solving multiple redundant math problems.
Your homework assignment is right here on the board. It's page 52, 1 through 75.
It makes it more fun because it's like a competition, and so it makes you want to try harder for it.
Well, before this, I didn't really know much about the stock market or about percent and percent of increase. So this kind of helped me to understand what adults do a lot with the stock market and how to find those percents.
It's really helped get some kids excited about math who otherwise maybe don't do as well in math, and this has given them a chance to experience some success.
Holly Mill's son and Tom Wood's daughter Madison participated in the math project. They were impressed to see their children take such an active interest in the math formulas they use each day as Fidelity employees.
Yeah, it absolutely brings life together with school, and anytime I can do that with him, it's a positive thing.
It did, uniquely because I work in the financial services industry. She did come home with questions about finance and the stock market, so it did give us a chance to talk on a level that, quite honestly, we haven't been able to. So it was fun for me as well.
And district leaders are hoping the positive things they learned through the Making Math Count project turns into positive life decisions in high school and beyond.
I'll save more, probably, and use it for better things than just little things.
It teaches us, me and my partner, how to control our money and how to do it well so that we can end up with the most.
It shows you how to wait till prices go down or how they're gonna change, and then when you should buy things at lower prices before they go up.
So far, those lessons seem to be getting through loud and clear.
I want to introduce you to Stuart Crickmer now, who's going to actually go through what happened last year, and then we'll take it from there and we'll walk you through.
All right, thanks, Kelly. Hopefully by the video you can see some of what we did last year. So my task right now is just to take a couple more minutes, and for those of you who aren't aware, just give you some idea what the program is about. The video mostly focused on the end of the year tournament that we had here using the Portfolios game at Fidelity. A lot of you were involved in that, but we started the year by having Fidelity volunteers go into the classroom, play in the Portfolios game with the kids, and then we had some follow-up in class activities they did. All of them were investment related, plus one thing that you didn't see, and I'm going to show you briefly, was an online multi-week simulation that the kids were involved in. I will say that Sharon, my wife, and I, we do a lot of investment education, and we did not initially intend to do this down at the school level. Most of what we created was for adults. What we found, though, when we started doing this at a high school level and then down at the middle school level, was the kids really got into this. They had fun. They were yelling, screaming, and things like that. But we found out something else that we didn't anticipate, and that is that the math that they would do as part of the program, there were times when, because of time constraints, we would tell them, please don't do the math, you can stop that. The kids would not stop doing the math. And actually, we thought that was normal. You know, kids having fun doing math all the time, but teachers told us this isn't all that normal. So, and in talking to Jenny Barrett over time, we found that the idea that we could use investing as a context to make math relevant was the hook. You know, the kids, they wanted to do the math because they wanted to figure out how much money they're making, and so that's why we use investment as that background. You've seen a little bit about the Portfolios game. I'm not going to go into more detail there. I do want to show you, for the benefit of, let me find this. We have the kickoff day with the Portfolios in the classroom. We will have two what we call in-class activities, and just to give you an idea of what these types of things are, here is one of them. And for those of you who are Fidelity employees considering to volunteer, this is the kind of thing we would ask you to go in the classroom and do. It's a very simple activity called Name That Company. You read a clue. The kids have a sheet. You know, this company started in 1886 and so forth. They'll answer it and try to guess, and they see how they do. They get points for doing this. We then follow that up with a little exercise where they will, after they've guessed the companies, we'll give them the current prices, and they'll take these, they'll add them up, and they'll get an average. And so they're using math skills, but at the same time, we're telling them a little bit about how the Dow Jones Industrial Index started back in 1896, when it was just an average at that time of 12 stocks. So we use that as a context. The other thing I want to show you that was not covered in the video and is a big part of our program is what we call the Investment Education Challenge. And this is a multi-week online investment simulation, and it works kind of like this. The students have a number, and I'm going to put the code in that I used for testing. So they go online, and this is essentially a dynamic dialogue. When they begin, it's going to have their name in there. They're going to be reading a dialogue with this hypothetical professor, you know, hello, Stewart or whatever it happens to be. And over the course of multiple weeks, it's going to essentially tell them a story. And that story is going to be how they can expect to become a millionaire. And we use that as, again, somewhat of a hook because the kids probably don't know that they can become millionaires, but it's incredibly easy if they learn some of these investing basics. And they go through, we get some initial information where we might ask, do you expect to be a millionaire and so forth. And then as we get into successive weeks, we will ask them, let me give you an example. We will ask them questions and they can earn money. They're all math-related questions. They are able, at the end of each week, to invest that money in 3 simple choices. And then at the start of the next week, and I've advanced ahead, we're in week 6 here, but when they come in and they first sign in, they're going to find out how much money they made on their portfolio, and depending on what strategy they have. Then they go through and they will get, well, in some cases I put things in here like magic tricks, so let me just advance through this because I don't want to spend time doing it. But we use various types of things to get them interested. At the core of this online is they will have 2 problem sets. They're all investment-related math questions. They get, for example, this is talking about the Dow average, and the answer here is mean. If they get it correct, they get money. And these problem sets have 4 problems. If they answer 3 in a row correctly, they get bonus dollars. If they miss one, they get a 4th. And the idea is that they're getting a similar type of problem, and they get to kind of work on that. There are 2 problem sets in a week. We track this. It takes the kids the median time is about 7 minutes a week to go through this. So I don't want to go through that in any more detail. Just understand that this is a multi-week thing. Every week is a year, and they're doing math-related questions. They earn money, and so forth. Now, at the end of this, which was I believe we did 13-week period, and they had invested for a dozen years, we took the top 128 scoring students, and those were the students who came here for the tournament at Fidelity. And we structured this like an NCAA style, 3-round, competitive type of tournament, 64 teams, going from the opening round to the Sweet 16 to the Final Four. Fidelity did a phenomenal job making this a very cool event, as you saw on the video there. And that's kind of the capstone thing that we would be looking at doing again in April this coming year. And I think let me stop there in terms of just giving you a brief overview of what we did this current year. Well, actually, let me add one more thing. On a weekly basis, I would send information to Jenny in terms of how the kids performed, and I would give my non-expert types of observations. If I saw that kids were struggling with a certain thing, doing percentages or whatever, I'd let Jenny know. One of the things that was very helpful to me was, as we did this, I would periodically get emails from somebody like Kimber Dunn or other teachers who would give me feedback as well. And our goal was to work very closely with Jenny and with the teachers to make sure that what we were doing was additive to what was being done in the classroom, wasn't taking any time away from the teachers, wasn't onerous on the kids and so forth. And I think we were pretty happy with the way that worked so far. As you look at this online investment education piece, one of the things that I want to make sure I mention is that this thing wouldn't exist if it weren't for an individual that Kelly mentioned, was a gentleman by the name of Rob Young, who was a trustee of the Edwards Foundation. I've known Rob for quite a number of years. And one of the things that, from my perspective, is unique about Rob is that as an individual who is making decisions about funding programs, he understands it from the investment side. And while this is predominantly a math program, there are certain things that we really care about, and one of them is that we're teaching kids the right thing about investing. And to that end, this is a longer-term simulation, investing simulation, not a short-term trading simulation. And I want to thank Rob for making this possible, and actually invite Rob to come up here and give us a brief perspective from the founder's point of view.
Well, thanks a lot.
Fun.
Appreciate it. I get to be Santa Claus is what I call it. I get to bring money to people and hand it out, and it's a great job, and I love it. And to get that impact and see the joy in people's life is just, it's unbelievable. I was a coach, and to see people, little guys, third graders, turn on and understand what you're trying to get them to do is just so impactful in my life. So, and then I get to give money out, I'm getting much more in return. More than anything, the Edwards Foundation, I think, has contributed probably close to $300,000 to this program. And we're on board again to make another commitment for $50,000 this year to make this program go to the next level. That's how much we support it, and we see that the impact that this will have today and into the future. In dealing with adults, I do very much the same simulation in educating them and bringing them up to speed. So if I can start it out earlier, our jobs are going to be much easier later on down the road. I want to keep us on time. That's very important to me, being very punctual. So I'm going to hand it back and say thanks a lot, and I enjoy being Santa Claus. I really appreciate it.
So next, again, isn't that impressive? It's just kind of mind-boggling. And the other thing I really want to point out is there was absolutely nothing, no stone left unturned in the planning piece of this. And when Stuart talked about trying to be very careful, one particular session we had where we were doing some wording and Stuart had put it in, about rounding up to the second decimal. And God love Jenny, she came back and she said, well, that's not exactly how we say it to students. So you have to say the hundredths or something. But just that attention to detail to make sure that even that small piece of the verbiage was relative to and right on target for the students, that's the level of detail that's gone into it. So I do think it's important because that was a lot of time and energy that went into that. Next, we're going to bring up Kevin Corcoran and Jenny Barrett. Together? Okay. And they're going to talk about the results, which I know you guys are excited to hear from the pilot project.
Okay, so I just want to give you a little bit of background about one of the things that Kevin is going to be talking about, and that is the MAP test. That's part of the data that we use this year. The MAP test is the measures of academic progress. And it is a national norm reference test that we give to all of our students in grades 3 through 10 in math, science, English, language usage, and reading. Okay? MAP is an adaptive test, which means that as students answer questions correctly, they get more difficult questions. As they answer questions incorrectly, they get easier questions. And what that does is it allows us to hone in on the achievement of each individual student. And it also allows us to measure their growth through time so that we can make instructional decisions from that. So at this point, Kevin's going to give you a little bit of the preliminary data, but I wanted to give you that context of what the MAP assessment is.
Yeah, since I can't be Santa Claus, I have to be the stat guy. So I thought about putting a lot of numbers up here, and since you're so into math, I considered doing that, and I thought this is more a story, that kind of account, rather than a financial account. So this is mostly for the folks not affiliated with the school. The map was given fall, winter, and spring, and so the results I'm going to describe to you have to do with a different score. Think of it as an improvement score from fall to spring. The key thing in doing the data analysis, at least this preliminary data analysis, was were the seventh graders keeping on course? Were they continuing to move forward, or were they declining? Now, I looked at some of the national data for the map. A third of seventh graders actually show a decline across their seventh grade year. 1 in 3. That was stunning to me. The numbers are better. A little bit better in Kenton County. It's about 26% of our sample. And by the way, the sample was 580. Kelly mentioned about 600, and we'll give her rounding for that, right? And so what we did as a preliminary, and remember that the whole idea here is, are we on the right track? As we look to the future, we'll look at exactly what's happening, but are we on the right track? So first step was to look across the entire program at the number of these kinds of items kids got right? I don't know if you still use this terminology, but this would have been a word problem when I was in school, right? I have a colleague in math education who has a publication called Word Problems. Ugh. You need to understand the math in order to be able to do these. So the first thing that I looked at was, did the kids whose MAPS scores improve over the course of the year do better on these word problems? The answer to the question is yes, significantly, statistically significantly, very strong difference. In a sense, that's a validation of these word problems. That says we were on to something in these being the word problems because they're measuring the kinds of skills that we expect to see seventh graders improve in. I also just really out of curiosity as much as anything else, the kind of thing somebody doing stat does, is I looked at just the last week. Did it show up in the last week? Now remember, the last week is going to be only a subset. If you look at the entire aggregate, you're looking at all of the kinds of math problems that a seventh grader is going to need to accomplish. So in looking at the last week there wasn't a difference between the kids who improved and the kids who didn't improve on the MAP score. Intuitively, that may be surprising, but it's measuring a more limited set of skills. So it was the broad set of skills, which is, if you got to choose between two, that's the one you want to relate to the MAPS. The real critical finding from my point of view was we looked at kids' involvement in the program. The degree to which the students attended, participated. As an educator, I would use the word engaged. Were they engaged by this? And the kids who were more engaged as assessed by how much they participated in this were significantly more likely to be in the improved score than in the not improved score. In other words, the kids whose test scores improved over the course of the year were significantly more likely to be more engaged, to participate more fully in this program. That's the promise in looking towards the future. If we didn't have that, we probably wouldn't be having at least this part of the meeting today. We wouldn't be as optimistic in looking towards the future. Now, the future is going to be about trying to figure out what is it that happens. Is it simply that kids who are good at math like doing this? That's certainly a possibility, that the causal direction is that way, that kids who are good at math like doing math stuff. You give them problems like this that clearly involve math, and they get more engaged by it. We're going to try to tease apart as we look to the future whether the direction is that way or whether it's in the other direction, and that is as kids get more engaged by this. Everybody likes looking at an iPad screen, right? And that's what you've got is a virtual iPad screen. As kids get more engaged in this, do we see those math scores improving? Jenny is going to talk about how we're going to use results moving forward, and I'm going to step aside.
Okay, so one of our big goals was to increase the number of students that we have that are becoming college and career ready. And so because of that, what we decided to do was, as we designed this program, really pull things from the Common Core standards, which have a direct and important impact on whether or not students will become college and career ready. If you look at the EPAS system, the Explorer Plan ACT, that measures college and career readiness, the final one that students take when they are juniors in high school is the ACT. And on the ACT, 40% of the content, so 24 of the 60 questions, actually come from the pre-algebra and elementary algebra content. And we find that that's typically an area that students struggle in a little bit because they haven't seen it in quite a while. And when they did see it, they weren't fully engaged, as Kevin was mentioning, in learning that. And so it's stuff that they tend to forget. So one of the things that we want to do as we move forward from here is we really want to track these students so that we can make sure that what we're doing is having an impact, and then use that information to help inform any changes that we make in the program. The way we're going to do this is if you look at the graphic up here, from 7th grade through 10th grade, the students will be taking the MAP test 3 times a year. So that's something that we will continue to follow with these students. The students who were in 7th grade last year are getting ready to take the Explorer in about maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something. We're getting close. And so what we're going to do is we're going to be able to look at the item analysis from that test, from that assessment, and see whether or not the items that are in the pre-algebra, elementary algebra domain, and specifically the ones that were addressed in the online challenge, if our students are doing better on those than they did the previous year. We'll continue to follow these students as they take the plan at the beginning of their 10th grade year, and then also the ACT at the end of their 11th grade year. Okay? So at this point, I'd like to go ahead and turn it back over to Stuart to show you where we're headed in the future.
All right, thanks, Jenny and Kevin. One of the things that Kevin mentioned that's important to me was, if you listen to him the way I do, is he talked about very positive things, which I was pleased to hear, but he also talked about some things where, well, you know, we're not quite sure if this caused that or if it was the other way around and so forth. Just so you know, when we look at the assessment kind of stuff, we're probably harder on ourselves than anybody else could possibly be. We want to make sure this is having impact on the kids, doing it in a way that isn't a burden on the teacher and so forth. So what Kevin, Jenny, and the rest of us are going to be doing as we go into how this is going to be different next year is taking a look at some of those things and getting more specific to, okay, Kevin, what things do you want to be able to assess and how can we do it? Much of what you're going to see in the upcoming years is going to be similar to what we had before. We'll have the kickoff events in the class. We'll have a couple of the in-class events. I think we're going to only have 2 this year. We'll have the tournament. The online piece will look roughly similar, but I think there will be some improvements and enhancements. One of the ideas I had last year that I did not get to implement, that we will implement this year, is some sort of a practice module. So if the kids know that, okay, I'm getting ready to do a problem set on whatever it happens to be, percentages or something like that, we're going to give them a little almost game-like practice module where they could kind of go play with this a little bit. And I want to do it where it's in a fun type of thing. At some point it might work its way down into a phone app, but it'll use investment data in a game type of thing that they can kind of play with. Now, once they get comfortable with it, then they can go use it in the simulation, earn their investment money and so forth, and help them enhance it. So again, that's something we're going to play with and try. Certainly, we're open to suggestions from teachers and others, and we try to listen and implement those types of things. So those are the primary enhancements that we're going to look at, make sure that we make it more engaging, more robust, more impactful. And hopefully when we're back here next year, Kevin's going to have more concrete, even better results than we had this year. And now, do you want me to introduce our next guest? One of our star teachers who I think your class had the high, one of the things we did, just kind of add a little fun competition, was the highest average class portfolio value, which involved 2 things, participation and how well the kids did. And I think our winner this year and our speaker next is Kimber Dunn. Oh, and I got to pull up your presentation.
So when I was asked to speak today, I thought, well, what on earth am I going to say to a room full of financial wizards and math classroom educators, adults that already share my passion for numbers? So I thought. So I thought, this is what we're going to do today. We're going to do Pythagorean theorem, right? So I'd like to give you a couple minutes to read the screen there about Pythagorean theorem, and then we'll find the length of the hypotenuse. But if that's not exciting enough, then we'll use the same theorem to also find the length of the legs in that right triangle. Okay, so let me give you a couple minutes. Because that's engaging, right? Give you some text to read, then do a few sample problems. No. And my students didn't think so either. So when you ask 7th grade, I mean, how on earth could 12-year-olds not be excited about right triangles and Pythagorean theorem? Because after it all, it does have so many uses, like when you go to buy that big, huge flat screen TV whose dimensions are already on the box, right? You already find the diagonal. So when you ask 12-year-olds, what do you really want to learn? What do you really want to know? Well, help me get this, right? Teach me how to get that. Or how to have that big fancy car. Not Pythagorean theorem. Not find the length of the hypotenuse. So to help us get the money and get the nice fine car, you came into our classrooms Fidelity volunteers came into our classrooms. You brought us here on campus. You showed us and coached us through the online challenge. And you taught us all these things: probability, random events, decimals, practical things like percents, percent of change, how to read and analyze and interpret bar graphs, and a little bit about the stock market and industry competition. And of course, the tournament. Because honestly, what we're doing isn't working anymore. So we got to think about, what can our students use? What's useful? How can we make math more real to them? And there were times when it was a little frustrating. Okay? As classroom teachers, we're probably used to explaining how to change a percent to a decimal 27 times, right? But volunteers may not be real adjusted and acquainted with that. So I know there were times when you got frustrated. But just keep in mind that this is really how the students see you. You are the guru of finances. So our students showed their appreciation, and I just want to, on behalf of Kenton County Schools, also share with you their appreciation and say thank you for coming into our classrooms.
Thank you, Kimber. You can see why she's a great teacher, right? It's amazing. Well, now that you've heard the teacher's perspective, we wanted you to hear from one of the students. So we have invited Madison Woods. You saw Tom Woods up on the screen earlier. Madison is his daughter, and she is a student at Turkeyfoot Middle School, and we asked her to come and share some of her thoughts as she went through the program.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me here today. My name is Madison Woods, and I'm an 8th grader at Turkeyfoot Middle School. Last year, my class participated in the Fidelity Investment Challenge. Over the months Fidelity was with us, we had the opportunity to learn about investing both in class and online, where Fidelity volunteers attended our school to help teach us, our class, investing basics. The things my class liked best about the program are that it was a unique way of learning math. There was a lot of competition among the class, and that there were different rewards for doing well. Throughout the program, the Fidelity team taught us differently than our normal teachers did. We were learning math, but had fun while we were learning about investing, calculating returns, and dividends. First, they would teach us about each topic, and then they guided us through the game or competition, and finally, they reinforced the information online. Our entire class loved the competition. Each day the volunteers came, we would work hard to outdo one another, which forced us to learn more. Finally, we appreciated the rewards for doing well. The Fidelity team supplied candy during each session. We were able to take a field trip to the Fidelity office for the final challenge. The winning teams won a really nice calculator and other prizes. In conclusion, no matter how far you progressed in the activities, we all learned and had a lot of fun thanks to Fidelity. Thank you.
Next, I would ask you to help me in welcoming Dr. Terry Cox-Cruey, Superintendent of the Kenton County School District, and Linda Jackson, Superintendent of the Covington Independent School District.
We have a lot of partnerships in the Kenton County School District, but when people ask me to give them an example of a model partnership, I always talk about the Fidelity partnership. And that's because you really get a good example of how a school district is working to engage students in a meaningful way. They're learning, we're looking at trend data, and then we also have the partnership with Northern Kentucky University. When Kelly and I were first talking about this with Stuart, we talked about how are we going to measure the progress. That was really a big hurdle for us because we don't have extra statisticians around our office that can help us with that. We also worried that this would be something in addition to what our teachers were already trying to do, implementing the new Common Core standards. And so we asked Jenny to get engaged right from the beginning to say, okay, what makes sense? Where is it that we are teaching these kinds of skills that we need to get experts in there? And of course, a big thank you to Stuart and Sharon for being part of that time in my office as an example. So I'm really happy that our kids can get that engaged, because I tell people no matter what we're doing, if the students aren't engaged, it really isn't going to matter. And when you come to the classrooms or even watching them in the tournament, it is so exciting. And you heard a little bit from our teacher and our students that are involved in that. But it is so exciting to see that level of engagement and the kids really wanting to learn more, really wanting to do something important with math. So for those of you who are new to the project, just know that this is truly about deepening the instruction and getting kids engaged at a much more rigorous level than previously just being introduced from their textbooks and things. And that's why I fell in love with the idea and the program right away and knew it wasn't going to be just another add-on. This really does strengthen what you're already doing in the core standards. And what I really like is that we were able to find a way through our partnership to make sure that we're looking at that data and that we're able to see that it is making a difference, so that all of the teachers who are implementing it can see that it really is worth the while to get kids engaged at that level. And it was great to hear from Kimber, because that's what we want to hear. We want to make sure that what we're doing is supporting the instruction in the class. So for those of you who are new to the project, both in the Kenton County School District and Covington, I think you'll really like it, because I think when you see how engaged the students are, that's reinforcing in and of itself. But I think we're also going to be able to see that data over time, and I'm really excited for the future and to look at the future plan and ACT scores as well, and see if this really carries over, because they got involved at such a deep level at a young age. So thank you again to all the volunteers from Fidelity. We certainly couldn't do it without you, to Kelly and Stuart and Kevin, and of course Jenny, who gives up a lot of her time. I really, really am appreciative, and I think that if our kids could say that again, they would tell you as well that it's really making a difference. So thank you very much on behalf of Kenton County School District.
Good afternoon. My name is Linda Jackson, and I'm the superintendent for Covington Independent Public Schools. And first of all, I want to thank Fidelity. Fidelity has invested a lot of time at Holmes Middle School and Covington Independent Public Schools on the learning environment side. They've come in 2 summers ago and painted every classroom, every wall in the entire building. They did an art project in our library, painting shades with our students after school. And this summer they spent hours and hours building an outdoor classroom for all students in Covington to enjoy, but it's on the Holmes Middle School side of the campus. They've also worked in various ways through outdoor classroom, through planting trees, picnic tables and planters and all of those wonderful things. But now this will enable us to move not from just the glitz and glamour of a supportive and nurturing and fun learning environment into truly getting into the classrooms. This summer in my opening speech on opening day to all of the staff in Covington, I asked them some what ifs. And one of the what ifs I asked them was, what if every student that entered 8th grade in our school district could successfully pass Algebra 1? What would that mean for our elementary curriculum, our middle school curriculum, and even our high school curriculum? And when we think about math, we think about how over the years we have done so many different things to try to teach math. From I was an algorithm-based student where everything was from the teacher, page 52, 1 to 75. How many of you remember that? Then we've moved into total concepts where sometimes we forgot the basic skills. But what we have now is we have what we call the Generation Y. These are the students that say, why do I have to learn this? And I often think back to the fact when I was setting in Algebra 1, doing the algorithm-based problems, I was like, I'm never going to use this. And so it went into my short-term memory. And now there's a lot of math problems that I can't do. So as we look to our Generation Y students, this is going to be a program for Holmes Middle School and for the Kenton County School District that will put that Y into reality for our students, to make it real, to make them to understand investment and money and how money can drive your future. So thank you so much for inviting Covington Schools to be a part of this. And we still want the painting and we still want the picnic tables. But this is going to be something that's really going to benefit our students. So thank you.
So as we get ready to wrap up for this evening, and we will open it up to Q&A, I just do want to take a minute again to the principals, to the teachers. Thank you for giving us the chance to come into your classrooms and your schools. I have to thank all of our partners, Stuart and Sharon Crickmer and Rob Young, Kevin Corcoran, Jenny Barrett, who I cannot begin to tell you, I've learned so much from all of these individuals. Pretty amazing what a couple of people who are committed when they come together. It's so exciting. But I think I would be remiss if I did not really take a minute and say thank you to the Fidelity volunteers. I hope that today you have seen the impact of all of your efforts and what this could lead to. The fact that here at Fidelity we do a lot of volunteering. No escaping that. We have, and I'm not competitive. I say that all the time, but then I always say but we really have some awesome numbers compared to all of our other regions. Let's face it, we just kick butt. So it's really exciting because that's our culture, right? I don't know if it's Midwestern or it's Fidelity, but we get engaged. And I sit here and I look at what this program can be, because sometimes we just go in and it's an ad hoc, right? And then they go in and you leave, beginning, middle, and end all in one day or in a 3-hour period. To be a part of a program where you are making this type of an impact that is long-term and sustainable for children around education. Think about that. We're going to be able to track these students all the way through high school. That's something we've never really tried before. And I think we're off to an excellent start. This is pretty exciting. And so I hope this is the call to action. Ding, ding, I didn't bring a bell, but I should have put the little bell up there. So here's what's going to happen. Last year I said 2 schools, 76 volunteers, 351 hours. Well, now we're going to 5 schools. We're going to be in over 40 classrooms for the finance day and beyond, and 1,300 students. So if, again, you want to do the math, what do you think that does to the number of volunteers needed and the number of hours? Pretty significant increase. So the 4 programs that we run as part of the Investing in Students is we have the Fidelity Finance Day, which is our kickoff, where we go into the 7th grade classrooms. For those of you who were a part of it last year, you will remember. For those of you that are not, the Fidelity employees, 2 to 3 each, go into each 7th grade classroom at each of the 5 schools. This year, because of the number, we are actually going to do it over a 3-day period. So 1 school in the morning, 1 school that afternoon. On a Wednesday, a school in the morning, a school in the afternoon, and on Friday we will have our 5th school. We need 2 to 3 employees per classroom. We're needing over 140 volunteers in the course of a week to run Finance Day. Part 2 is the in-classroom activities that Stuart showed you the example of. Last year we got to do it multiple times, but as you can imagine, we now have to reach a broader audience, more classrooms. So we're only going into the classroom twice this year. The first will be in October. The second will be in February. Third piece is the online simulation. Luckily, we're not asking you to do anything with that, or me either, because I have absolutely no technical skills whatsoever. We leave that up to the experts, and Stuart can manage all of that just fine. And then the 4th piece is the tournament that we hold here at Fidelity. Same as last year, we'll need roughly 30 to 50 volunteers, depending on if someone can only commit an hour, if someone wants to spend a half a day, that number will fluctuate. So out of the 4 components, there are 3 ways to get engaged. So the training for portfolio days, so anyone who wants to deliver on finance days, 2 training sessions. You'll get an email later this week, so you don't need to write it down. On September the 10th, we'll hold a training here in the auditorium at 4 o'clock. And then on the 18th, we are holding a training at 4 o'clock in the Winchester Room in Howe. We're hoping by doing it in multiple locations, it'll help some of the folks out so you don't have travel time. So later this week, you're going to see an email. And it's going to, everything I just said except Reader's Digest version and much nicer and cleaner. And all the dates and the times will be out there. There will also be a link. My call to action is please come back and join us again. Please bring a friend or two. That would be really great. And also, which I know some of you, like Lacey, have already told me you're going to do, take this back to your team meetings. Share this with folks. I can tell you I was at the regional management team meeting this morning, and every single business unit head was sitting at that table. And when I said 1,300 students at 5 schools, Jody was there, they went, wow. So they know about it. So top down, everyone is aware. Okay, so I would ask you to stay involved, talk it up, bring a friend, come to the training. It's really cool. If you're really scared and you don't want to get in front of an audience, I understand that too. We'll partner you with someone who is very experienced. All of that will be in the registration so that you can have it, you can customize it however you want. But please do stay engaged and support it any way that you can. Okay? So that wraps for us as a formal presentation. I would open it up if anyone has any questions. Feel free, of anyone in this room, you are free to ask any questions. And if not, then we will adjourn and say have a good evening and thank you.